Log entry. Day 215. "Hello," said my own voice through the headset. Not the degraded, static-chewed version from the tether. Clear. Slightly flat on the vowels in the way that had been bothering me since our first conversation. The particular flatness of someone who grew up pronouncing French words with a suburban Laval cadence, rather than the plateau's slightly affected cosmopolitan clip. "How are you on the surface channel?" I said. "The conduit was overwritten hours ago." "It was," he said. "I've been thinking about that." He had spent the 90 minutes since our tether signal died running calculations on the collapse boundary's electromagnetic properties. At the current stage of the timeline convergence, the boundary had thinned enough in certain frequency ranges that quantum-coherent microwave signals could propagate through it directly. Not cleanly, not reliably, but enough. He had stripped the transceiver components out of 2 backup sensor units, built an improvised antenna array on the gantry railing in the generator room, and used the boundary itself as the carrier medium. From my comm terminal's perspective, a signal propagating through the quantum boundary from an adjacent timeline and a signal coming down the mine shaft from the surface were indistinguishable. Both were external, both registered the same way. "You used the collapse boundary as our radio tower," I said. "Yes." A brief pause. "I'm very pleased with it." He said this with the particular satisfaction of someone who had solved an engineering problem under pressure and wanted that noted for the record. I recognized the tone because I had used it myself, usually right before something I had built stopped working. "How long do we have?" I asked. 8 minutes before the carrier frequency shifts out of the coherent range. We should be efficient. We compared whiteboards. It took about 4 minutes and confirmed what I had already suspected. He had arrived at the same resonant excitation solution I had, from the same end to infinity pressure model, through the same sequence of failed assumptions. Different handwriting, presumably. Same math underneath. 2 generators, I said. 2 arrays. Both sides. Microsecond synchronization. The timing is going to be brutal." "I know. I've been working on the synchronization protocol." He said this the way McKay talks on Stargate Atlantis, which is to say with absolute confidence, and the underlying implication that you should be grateful someone competent was handling it. "It's going to require both of us to hold position and not deviate from the firing sequence under any circumstances." "What happens if one of us deviates?" "We excite the wrong resonant mode of the quantum field, and the collapse boundary inverts." "Meaning?" "Meaning instead of anchoring your timeline, we compress it to a point, and it ceases to exist instantaneously." I thought about this for a second. "No pressure," I said. "Some pressure," he said. A soft chime from my secondary monitor. CO2 scrubber efficiency at 87%, down from 94 at last check. The biofilters were clogging. Not dangerous yet. A few hours before it became a real problem, on top of all the other problems. I noted it and looked back at the terminal. "The name," I said. "The one you started to tell me before the tether died." A beat. "I can transmit it clearly now. Ready to write it down?" "I've been ready since the signal cut out 4 hours ago." He said the name. 4 syllables. I wrote him on my notepad. I had heard him correctly in the static, or close enough. The name sat on the paper, and I looked at it for a moment. I felt something shift in my chest that I didn't have a precise scientific term for. It was not the name of a government agency, not an organization. A person. Specific and individual. And I recognized it, because anyone working in deep mind quantum physics in Canada would recognize it. I am not writing it in this log yet. I do not understand the full implications, and I am not committing accusations to the record until I do. You know who it is, Veritech Elliot said. Not a question. Everyone in this field knows who it is, I said. That's what makes it insane. Veritech has a 200-page dossier. When I get the carrier stable enough, I'll push the summary files through. It'll take time. Fine. I put the notepad face down on the desk. Tell me about your superposition flash. A longer pause. Why? Because mine happened roughly 18 hours ago, and it looked like a real estate advertisement for a life I don't have. I want to compare notes. He was quiet for a moment. Deciding something. Same kitchen, he said finally. Same apartment, I think. Same light through the window. He stopped. She was sitting at the table. Not doing anything. Just sitting. I waited. She had the same expression she had the night she left me. I sat with that. Here Sarah left you too, I said. 8 months before my rotation started. Different reasons. Same result. Another pause. But in the flash, she was still there. In the apartment. With the ring. She looked the way she looked on the last night. Before the last conversation. Like someone waiting for something to be over. The CO2 monitor chimed again. 84%. So timeline B isn't what I thought it was? I said. I don't know what timeline B is. That's exactly the point. He shifted, and I heard what sounded like a gantry railing creaking under his weight. 380 meters down a flooded tunnel in an adjacent universe. What you saw in your flash and what I saw in mine should have been the same thing. We're the same person. Same quantum signature, same entanglement profile. We should be observing the same timeline state. But we saw different things. You let that sit. Which means our flashes aren't showing us the actual state of timeline B, I said slowly. They're showing us something filtered through our own consciousness. Our own probability amplitudes, he said. What your brain constructs as the most likely version of that timeline, given your specific fears and desires. Not a window into another reality. A mirror held up to this one. The kitchen in Montreal. Tourtière with cloves. Sarah looking uncomplicated and happy. And precisely like someone my subconscious had assembled from the pieces I missed most. My mother's voice in my head, unbidden. Le monde a besoin d'un témoin, Elliot. The world needs a witness. I had been so certain I was witnessing another timeline. I need to think about that, I said. I know, he said. There's one more thing. About timeline B. About Sarah, specifically. In the actual. The carrier signal spiked. 2 seconds of hard interference that stripped the voice completely. When the line cleared, there was nothing. No static, no degradation. Just absence, where a voice had been. I held the headset and listened to it. The CO2 monitor chimed a third time. 81% and falling. I put the headset down, looked at my notepad, at the names sitting on it, face down. Then I turned it over and looked at it again, and thought about who in the world would want to do this deliberately, and what possible reason they could have. And why that reason frightened me considerably more than the walls closing in.